Hello everyone, good afternoon. Again, very welcome to the FOXXCON Meetup hosted by Redfox Security. I am Utpal Patel and I am a security consultant here at Redfox. Yeah, so this is the topic for today's talk, secure code review. So what is source code review? So first of all, I'll brief about the source code review. Then I'll brief about what is the importance of source code review in cybersecurity, right? So source code review is the process of identifying the bugs or vulnerabilities or logical errors or let's say improvement areas in the source code part. So that is the source code review. Just to maintain the code, then the security part of the code. That's why we perform this source code review. But what is the importance of source code review? A secure code review in the cybersecurity. Isn't it supposed to be the developer's job to secure the code itself? But no, that's the tricky part, because not all the developers knows about the security, right? So that's when we as a security professional comes into the picture. So what we do, we generally do the end-to-end scan using manual and automated both ways. So usually when we do the automated scan, we just check the tool's output and then we verify with those outputs manually as well. But in manual source code review, we do end-to-end check, starting from authentication, authorization, all the functionalities, and as he mentioned, SCA part as well. So we cover the dependencies as well in the manual source code review. So that is the importance of source code review in the cybersecurity. Okay. Next comes the software development lifecycle. So why this is important? Again, if you will go in the industry and if you want to apply as a security engineer role, then this is the must know things for you as a security professional. If you want to apply for security engineer role. So there are different phases for a software development lifecycle. Short form is SDLC, right? So there are 7 phases starting from planning to maintenance. So I'll just brief about all the phases and then we'll move on. So planning. So this is the initial phase of SDLC where the goal and what we need in that particular project that is defined. In the next analysis part, based on the goal and the objective, we just analyze what are the requirement for the project, what is the need, and then we prepare the SRD, software requirement specification document on that in the analysis phase. In the design phase, we just develop the architecture part of this high-level architecture of the project, and then the team send it to the higher management for the review. Then comes the important phase, implementation. From here on, the process of code review starts. So developers generally do their part. Then if they are aware of the security concept, then they will implement some kind of check. But if they are missing that part, then we will cover in the next phase, that is testing. So in the testing phase, we generally cover the QA part, then the source code part. These things we do. So if I talk about the QA, so generally, for example, if some feature is taking input from let's say 1 to 5, but developer mistakenly added 0 to 5. So that comes the QA portion. But if we talk about the secure code review, so for example, the input validations is missing, this IDOR, broken access control, SQL. So this kind of checks we do in the source code review. So we as a security professional do that source code review. Then we again send the report to the developer team. So they will again fix that those issues before the deployment only. And again, they will deploy the code after all the fixes, right? So then the next phase is deployment. That is the 6th phase, and the 7th phase, that is the maintenance, right? So in the maintenance phase, you must have heard about the web application penetration testing, right? So that is the after deployment. So everybody knows about the web application testing, right? Yeah. So you guys are aware of what is source code review, but you have not performed it actually. So you guys are aware of XSS, SQL, and that only we will cover in today's session. So you will understand how to map this web vulnerabilities with source code. Okay. So yeah, so in the maintenance phase, again, it's not like that in the testing phase only we do the source code review. In the maintenance phase also, we can perform the source code review. It depends on the company to company basis. So for example, if as a consultant, if we are doing the source code review for other company, right? And they must be selling their product to another company, right? So in that case, if the company C wants to want a security audit from another security organization, then they comes to us in the maintenance phase as well. So yeah. Yeah, so let's cover the SAST versus DST. So SAST is a static application security testing and DST is dynamic application security testing. So why I am briefing this is because just to compare the web application testing and source code review testing. So I want to compare these two parts. So that's why I just added this particular slide. So SAST is basically white box testing as you need the source code for it, and DST is black box testing as it is a web application testing. You might be getting the credentials depending on the client requirement, or it might be the black box testing as well. Then SAST is performed to detect the bugs in the earlier SDLC phases, not after the actual deployment, because it takes some effort from developer side as well, right? After writing all the code and then deploying it, then again they need to change the code after deployment. So that takes lots of effort and cost as well. So SAST is performed generally before deployment only. Yeah, so and SAST supports all the software. It doesn't find any environment issues in the test. We see generally staging, production environment, and then it's predominantly web application testing. Yeah, so now let's understand the architecture part. So you must have heard of, yeah.
So SonarQube and Trivia and all that comes under secure code review, right?
Yes, SonarQube is the automated testing.
Yeah. So SAST pipelines only we integrate, right? That.
Yes.
SonarQube and Trivia. So basically, major part of the SCR comes under like what you're talking about as a general code review, right?
Yes, yeah. So code review and secure code review both are different thing actually. So code review can be done by peer as well, right? As you mentioned before. And secure code review can be performed by the security professional. So in general, if we talk about the code review, they do not have proper knowledge of security aspect. So that's why we do the secure code review as well. So you must have heard about junior developer and senior developer. So if junior developer is writing any code, then senior developer is reviewing that. So that comes the peer review. Yeah. So next, the architecture part. So why this is important? Because like everybody can read the code. What's new in that, right? If you start from the first line of the code to the end of the line, right? What's the big deal in that? But no. If you are talking about code, then they must be calling some function from the external file, right? So that we need to understand how we can go from one file to another file, one function to another function, how we can come back to another like the default method or default class, that we need to understand. And that is why this MVC architecture. This is anybody want to answer this MVC architecture? Yes, please.
The model view controller, right?
Yes.
Mega code base says that we separate out the logic between the databases, the views part, and the like handler part that basically controls the incoming request and handles it.
Excellent, Ayush. Thank you so much. Yeah. So as Ayush mentioned, model view controller means the MVC, and controller is the starting point of the code. It takes care of the control flow, manages the interactions between model, view, and request. So I'm just explaining the theory. We will move to the demo part as well. Yeah. So controller is the starting point. Then view takes care of how the data is represented from UI, from taking inputs from the UI to rendering it back to the UI. So that comes under the view part. And model, it basically handles the database interaction and database layer. It holds the data and rules. Yeah. So next comes the DTO and DO, data transfer object, data access object. These things are related to database layer, database actions. So if we talk about the code, then you must have seen some files related to user DAO, user DTO, some admin DAO, admin DTO. So those are called the DTOs and DAOs. DTO means, as the name suggests, it is the data transfer object. So it structures the data to transfer between different parts of the application. And DAO, again, as the name suggests, it is the data access mapping and database interactions stuff. Okay. Yeah, so that was the general architecture. Now let's move to the Java-based applications architecture. So again, DAO and DTOs are similar. Those are for database operations. As I mentioned, controller, it will be having some request mapping. So you must have seen this code in the @get mapping or something like that. Yes, exactly. So those will be in the controller. And then pointer moves to the service and service IMPL. So in the service part, they will just define the method, and in the service IMPL, they will implement actual logic of that method. And then utils are the small pieces of the code, just like encryption, decryption, file upload, validators, some like those. So it totally depends on the developer, how developer is writing the code. Not like generally developer follows this particular architecture. Again, let's move to the Python architecture. So as I mentioned, controllers, it will be routes will be similar to those in the as controllers. It will be having endpoint mapping and this like just data flow and data control logics. Then service or helpers. So that will contain actual logic, and views that takes care of the how data is represented. Okay. So now comes the setup part. So this particular slide contains the manual methodology. So first one is JDK installation. Why JDK installation is required? Because we will be installing some extension of VS Code, right? And Python installation again for same reason. Yeah, so we have Burp Suite, right, for web application. Everybody knows that, right? That is the heart and soul of web application, right? Without that, it's like very hard to do a web application based penetration testing. So as per my understanding, this VS Code is similar to Burp Suite. So we can do all the things with VS Code. So it is having proper all the extension for like going back and forth, like auto completing the code, everything you will get. So first one is the Sneak. Sneak is the again automated extension for VS Code. So that will that is not language dependent. You can scan any language with Sneak. The next one is HTML app scans code sweep. I think this is now license based, if I'm not wrong, but I used to use this. So HTML app scan is another one. Okay. So let's go to the VS Code and I'll show you just extension, how you can install this extension. So I have created one vulnerable code, just purposefully intentionally vulnerable code. This is if you go to the VS Code, and this is the part extension. There you can see all this extension. So yeah, first one is Sneak Security, that is developed by sneak.io. So you can use this one. It's look like this one, and it scans all the vulnerabilities. The next one is HCL app scan. Yeah, so this is the HCL app scan. Next one is intelligently completions. That is for the just to complete the code automatically. So for example, if you are writing the code and if you are reviewing the code, and if you want to actually implement that particular logic to understand for our understanding only, so you can intelligently completions to just auto complete the code. I'll just quickly show you this extension. Not coming. Yeah, this one by the Microsoft.com. You can install this one. The next one is Java. For Java application, it's Java extension pack. For Spring, it's Spring extension pack, and for Python, it's Python, and for PHP, it's PHP extension. So I'll just show you so that you are not if you're doing the source code review, so you just make sure that you are installing this particular extension only. Yeah, extension pack for Java. So this is used to navigate back and forth. So just let me give you the example. So let's say if you will not install this particular extension, so you will not get this kind of option. Go to definition, go to declaration, go to type definition. All those kind of options you will not get. So it will be difficult, though the source code review can be performed without this extension, but then it requires manual efforts. With this, you can easily navigate back and forth in the source code. Yeah, so next one is the Spring Boot. I think it's here only. So if you are having Spring Java application, and if that endpoints with get mapping and all this mentioned, so it will just enumerate those endpoints, and it will create a brief of like with method and the endpoint. It will create just description about those endpoints and method, and it will give you the output here itself in the VS Code. Then next one is PHP. Yeah, this one devsense.com, and next one is Python. Okay, yeah, so Microsoft.com, this one. So yeah, now enough of theory. Just one more slide, sorry, before we move on. Yeah, so this is the open source automated tools. So there are some licensed tool as well, like those are paid, checkmarks, VeraCode, all those things. But I'm just showing you the open source one. So SonarQube, this is the automated tool for scanning all the languages. If you have Java Maven application, then it requires some effort to set it up. But yeah, you can scan these codes with SonarQube. Again, SamGraph CLI you can use for any language, and JScan, that is for JavaScript application. Bandit is for Python application, and OS dependency check. You can this is built by OS, so you can scan the dependencies with OS. Anyways, you can scan this with Snyk as well. But yeah, if you want to explicitly use OS, you can use. Okay, now I can say enough of theory. Let's move to the actual demo part. So this is the Java based application, right? So generally you will get this kind of structure if the developer is following proper MVC architecture. So before that, let's discuss about, so for example, if you are in consulting industry or if you are in product based industry, so what will you ask to your client for source code review? So that we'll discuss just briefly, and then we will move to the demo part. So yeah, if you are going on a call with client or say developer, so what you will ask? You will ask just the first of all, you ask like what is the application, how the application behaving, what is the entry point of the application, if they can provide any architecture diagram just for our understanding, so that you can ask, and just a brief about all the functionalities, so that we can focus on those major functionalities rather than going through the whole code, right? So that you can ask to your client or developer. So yeah, most of main logic is in the source, main, and Java folder, as this is the Java application. So you will see controller, DO, DTO, models, service, and if I open the service, you will have service IMPL as well. So the actual logic will be in IMPL file. So as I again before mentioned that the main entry point of the code is controller. So if for example, let me move to a auth controller just for as an example. So for example, if I am going to academy.redfox.com, and if you will hit this particular endpoint, let me add HTTPS because that is another vulnerability, clear text communication. So if you hit the login endpoint, so what you will do on the login page? You will provide the username, password, and then click on the login page, right? Login button, right? So the main logics is here. So what we will do, we will just come to the auth controller, and we will start our source code review from the auth controller, as this is the entry point of the web application as well as our source code review. So what they are doing, again, to do the source code review, you do not need to know everything what they are doing, but just you need to understand the logic and basic syntaxing. That's it. So I'll just explain you the code as well. So here we are coming in the auth controller, and we are just creating the auth service object with auth service IMPL. Then this is the function or method, you can say. So this is do post. That means it is calling the post method. So the username and password will be going in the parameters, right? So again, string path. What we are doing, we are taking again, this is the HTTP servlet to handle the request and response, and we are passing this request as argument. And then what we are doing, we are taking that particular path from the request, and we are comparing this in the if function. That is, if the path is equal to login, then we will execute the if function, and then we will go to the this part. Now the comes the like main thing, because if you do not know about the source code review or secure code review, then you will just read the code from line 1 to line maybe line 26, and then you will move to the next file. But that is not the case. What you need to do, say for example, here it is checking the authentication part. So you need to check whether they are checking the authentication properly or not, right? So just handle login, click on handle login, right click, and go to the definition, right? So as I mentioned earlier, if we are moving to the controller, then controller, the pointer moves to the service, and from service to service IMPL. So just observe, right? Earlier I was in controller, now I moved to the auth service. Again, we were looking for handle login, right? Here we were looking for handle login. So I am going to the service file, and again clicking on the handle login, and then go to the implementation. So it will open the service IMPL file for me. Yeah, so you can see we move from controller to service IMPL, and there is the actual logic for handle login. So you need to traverse from controller to service IMPL file to see the how they are properly authenticating the user, right? So again, we were using handle login. We are passing the same request and response argument, and then what we are doing, we are extracting the username from the request. As you can see, request.get parameter. We are extracting the password again, and then we are building the auth result using authenticate function again. So if you just read the code, then it looks good. What's the issue? But again, you need to go to the authenticate and then go to the definition of that. So again, you will fall back to the sorry, my bad. If you go to the reference or type definition, sorry, my bad, declaration, so that will be declared in the auth service file again, but the actual implementation is there itself in the implementation file only. So I am just scrolling up, and then here is, you can see the authenticate call, right? So again, we are taking the username and password that we extracted from the request, and then we are passing this in the DAO call. So here what we are doing is we are creating the user DTO object from the user DAO. So again, we will go to the user DAO and find what this find by username is doing, right? Just observe that thing. As of now, when we extracted this particular username from the request, it was not sanitized. Here we are passing the same username that we captured from the request in this particular authenticate method as well. And then again, we are passing same thing in the user DAO call. Okay, so I am going to the implementation part. Now we will move to the user DAO, as you can see. So actual logic was in the user DAO for find by username. So what we are doing here, we are passing the same argument that we extracted from the request. Then we are connecting the database string, right? So if we see the get connection DB URL, so DB URL is mentioned here, DB user, root, and DB password, root. So there comes your first vulnerability, hard-coded credentials. This idea should not happen. They should call it from environment variables, and then either environment variable or some external part that is some I can say key vault or something like that, right? So there comes your first vulnerability, that is hard-coded credentials. Let's move on. So we are creating the SQL statement, and what we are preparing the query string. So what we are doing, select ID, username, password, email from user, where username is equal to, we are just a minute, yeah. So what we are doing, we are concatenating that username that we extracted from the request without sanitization, and we are again passing that in the query string. So yeah, that is the SQL injection here, because the issue is we are not sanitizing the username here, right? Let's move on. So we are preparing the result statement here, and we are passing that back to the DTO object. So we are passing the ID, username, email, and then password. All these things we are passing, right? So this function executes, and our pointer again moves to the authenticate folder. So we store that in the user DTO object, and then what we are doing, we are just comparing the generated password, like we got the password from database, and there we are comparing here. So if the U, that is the our DTO object, is not null and our password is equals to the password we extracted from the request, right? So then this if part will execute. Again, there is one more issue here. What we did, we just extracted the password from database and we compared that password with our request password that we extracted from the request in the handle login part, right? So this password, and we got one more password from the database, right? This one. So what we are doing, we are just comparing the password in the this one, authenticate folder. Exactly. Yeah. So ideally, the password should be stored in the encrypted format in the database as well. You should not store the clear text password in the database. So yeah, we are, so you can report this issue as well. So as of now, we got hard-coded credentials, SQL, and clear text storing of password in database, right? So next, let's move on to the JWT part. This is intentionally vulnerable. That is why the name is create JWT insecure. What we are doing, we are comparing the password. We got the actual password, so that's why we are going in the if function, and we are comparing. We are creating the JWT for this particular username. Yeah. So that I will move to this JWT function. Before that, let's talk about this part, line number 25. Anyone spot the issue here? Anyone? What we are doing? This username is not sanitized as of now, right? And what we are doing? We are just concatenating it with actual string. This could be the potential issue, not the actual issue right now, but anyone? Sorry? Yes, exactly, accessor or HTML injection as well. Yeah, so now let's talk about this JWT function. That what we are doing, as you know, there are three parts in the JWT: header, payload, and signature. So we are just building the JWT. I'm just quickly going, because there is no vulnerability in this one, so I'm just quickly going through it. We are just building the JWT. We are setting up the time. We are encoding it with base64, header and payload both. And then we are checking the signature part of it. Okay. That's it. That was the function. So now again, pointer moves here. This function execute, return new auth result, and we got the JWT. So it will give us the success response here. Then we got the JWT and just a message. This is here, right? This message we got. So again, the counter moves to the handle login part. We are here on the auth result object. Now, if we have any entry in the R, that is the auth result object, so then if function will execute. And if the actual message is success, then this if function will execute, and we will get the cookie here, right? So we are just building the cookie object from the token, and we are setting up the path for that cookie, and we are printing, we are getting we are returning back into the response. Again, there is one more vulnerability here. So, but we are not setting the HTTP and secure flag here, right? So if there is access, then anybody can steal the cookie, right? We are setting up the cookie. So yeah, there comes our next vulnerability. Okay. And as I asked one question, right, for access. So I mentioned that it could be the potential issue, right? This particular line number 25. But we can confirm this. We are printing this particular message. So I can confirm that the vulnerability is there, access is there, right? Now this function is over. Now what? Where we will move on? Again, go to the references. Just click on it. You will get all the references. We are in the IMPL file, so you can see the actual implementation. But if you open the controller, you will get the default origin of that particular method. And if you click on this one, double click on this one, you will move back to the controller, right? So now this particular function is executed. We got the R result, so it will return return the it will execute this function. And but if you got some exception in that particular method, then the pointer moves to the catch, right? From try to catch. So here we have one more issue. So what we are doing, if we'll get the any error, then we are just printing the stack trace. Ideally, it should not happen, right? We should log that error, and we should generally show the generic error message to the user, not the actual print stack, right? So that is the improper error handling here. Okay, so this particular part is over. Auth controller. Let's move to the user controller function. User controller part, right? So it's up to you guys. Now, what you want to understand? Broken access control or XXC? What? Both? Okay, let's cover both then. Okay, so I'll start with broken access control, or you can say CSRF as well here. But still, it's up to you to identify these issues. As I mentioned earlier, this will be having broken access control and CSRF both. So just identify it and let me know. Okay, so again, this is do put, so it is using put method. We are passing the request and response with HTTP servlet, and we are comparing the path. If it is update email, then this if function will execute, and we will go to the handle update email. Again, right click to it, go to definition. So the counter moves to the user service Java, user service.java. Again, what we are looking for? We are looking for handle update email. So go to the handle update email, right click it, and go to the implementation. Yeah, so here it is. So you will get handle update email method and the actual implementation of it. So yeah, as you can see here, I will sanitize the username, though it is not secure. This is deprecated one, but just for the demo purpose, I showed it that we are escaping the HTML characters, right? So here the user's username sanitization is there. We are moving to the email parameter. We are extracting from the request. Okay, now what we are doing? We are doing the executing the change email function, and we are passing the extracted username and email here. Again, I'm going to the implementation of it. So we'll move to the change email function. Again, it is we are storing it in the u object, u variable that is extracted from the user DAO. If I go to the implementation of user DAO, so we will move to the user DAO and update email function. Right. So here, what we are doing, we are passing the username, that is the email that we got. We were here, right? So as you can see, we got the new email as parameter, so that is passed here, and we got the email here. So again, we are doing the building the connection string for the database, and then we are doing we are updating the query. Yeah. So here comes the issue, right? Where we were on the update email. So for example, we are passing the update email function and username. Can you spot the vulnerability here? It's broken access control only, but what we are doing, we are just sanitizing the username, not checking the user session, whether the user session is tied up with that particular username or not, right? So that is why the vulnerability is broken access control here. I can change anyone's email ID with that particular username. I just need the username, and I'll provide my control email in that, and I'll then proceed with the reset password functionality. So I'll get the OTP here. That was the vulnerability here. And if they were sanitizing this particular thing, they were checking the username. Like if I was checking the username and the user session properly, though there is one more vulnerability, CSRF. Why? Because we were not having secure and HTTP only one JWT token that we were storing in the cookie, right? So I can craft a CSRF token, and then I can pass that particular malicious request to another user, and then they will execute, he or she will execute that particular code. So anyways, I'll update the email to my control email, right? So two vulnerabilities, broken access control and the CSRF, both comes in the picture here, right? So yeah, we will just update the email, and then again counter moves to the where we were on the user service IMPL. Yeah. So if the user this u is greater than 0, that we got as a output, so this particular part will execute, and we will update the email here. So again, that counter moves to the handle update email, and you can see the change email variable as a boolean, true or false you will get here, and you will again reflect back that updated email updated for username message on the UI, right? Okay, let's again go to that particular function. I hope the flow is clear, right? How to navigate back and forth in the code. That is the main part. If you're not able to understand that, then that makes an issue, right? Because you are not properly checking the code with the function and all the session binding and everything. Okay, let's move to the. I'm not explaining the whole methodology again and again, right? I'm just spotting the issues and then showing it to you guys. Okay, now let's go to the another call, that is do get. So it is get method, and what we are doing, we are just again comparing the path. We are checking if the profile is there in the path. If that is there, we will execute this handle profile. Again, right click this, go to the definition. So you will get the user service .java. I think it should be there. Yeah. What was the function? Handle profile. Yeah, handle profile here. Go to implementation. Just it's loading. So I know the path. So I'm directly moving on. What's the function? Handle profile. Yeah. So here. So just what we are doing. We are just checking the username. This one, and the actual vulnerability is not here. So that is why I'm skipping that part. The actual vulnerabilities comes here in the /XML path. So if we have /XML, and if we are doing this thing, like just we are handling this handle XML function call from the user service, and let me move to the IMPL quickly. Handle XML, this function will execute, and it will again call the parser part, this one parse XML part. So here is the vulnerability. So by default, in the document builder factory object, this particular path, this 3 part that I mentioned in the commented part, that is vulnerable right now because I have commented this particular part. So here in the document builder factory, by default, this disallow doc type declaration is enabled. So it is allowing, by default, it is allowing doc type declaration. External journal entities are also allowed, and external parameter entities are also allowed, right? So that is the vulnerability. So we are calling the external entities in the XML part, that is DTD, like doc type declaration. So we are defining external entities in DTD, and then we are calling that in the our XML structure. So if this is not disabled by default, then this creates an issue in the source code. So it's a very simple issue in the source code, but if you are aware of this fact that by default these parameters are not set. If I remove this part from the source code, from the commented part, so now this is secure. So it's just one line, but it creates lots of difference, right? So yeah, this was the XXE part. Yeah, so that concludes my demo, right? So let's spot some vulnerabilities in the snippets. So I'll just brief about this code, and then you will spot the different vulnerability in it. So this is the JS code. This is Express. So Express by default is case sensitive. Then we are just calling the app.use route, and then it will, if the path request.ul starts with /API, then it will execute this if function. Just remember this thing. Express is by default case sensitive. Let me explain this thing then. So as I mentioned, Express is by default case sensitive, right? So it will takes care of if we are writing in the uppercase or lowercase, right? So and then this if part is request.url starts with /API, and then it will check the token, right? But what if I type /API in capital letters? So it will bypass this auth check folder function, right? And we will move to the next pointer. So that's why I mentioned that Express is by default case sensitive, right? So yeah, if I provide a /API in capital letter, then we are not going in the if function, and then we'll directly jump out of the if function, and then next pointer or next method will call out of that. Okay, next one. We have two snippets. Yeah, so as he mentioned, we are directly concatenating the file object with the public parameter. If we will provide the dot dot slash dot dot slash dot dot slash, so we can navigate back to the folder structure. It was very easy, but yeah. So, and in the second snippet, what we are doing, we are just taking the file ID from the available files, and then we are from that particular ID of the available files, we are taking the file, and then we are concatenating it with public. So what we are doing here, we are just taking the username and password from the get parameter, like in the storing in the password, that is from the request. What we are doing, if the username is not null and password is not null, we are throwing the internal server error. But if we have the username and password, both this thing, then we are going to this thing. If the user exists, then we are executing this particular part, user exists, right? So we are revealing one stuff here, that user exists. So we will get the username here. If we are trying with the valid existing username, so we will get this particular error, user exists. And then, sorry, let me put this in the presentation mode, and let me bring the laser pointer here. Yeah. So if line number 17, what we are doing is, we are extracting the passwords of all the users. Select password from users, right? So we are taking the password from user table, and we are storing in the rs part, rs object, and that if rs.next, if rs object exists, so we have some passwords with us, right? From this is not necessary, right? Why do you want to compare the existing user's password when user is registering, right? There is no need to do so. So that is the main issue here. But let's move on to this one. If rs.getString is password equal to starts with this password that we extracted from the request. Let's say, for example, I am registering user A, and my password starts with, let's say, pentest. So I am starting my password with pentest capital P, right? So I am registering, again I am giving the username A, and then again I'll provide the password as capital P. So I'll get that the password policy is not followed, right? I'll get that error, password policy not. I'll try word by word, and then I'll get the eventually actual password of that user, right? So that is the vulnerability here. So what we are doing, we are registering. Yes. A blind SQL injection, you can say. But yeah, there is no need to do any like automated or manual stuff. Just you can provide any username and the valid password, and then you can try word by word. And if you are able to register your user, then you can say before that particular password, the password was there in the database, and you can probably take the username and password combination, and then you can log in, right? So yeah, that was pretty much it from my side, guys. This was the end of presentation. Okay, thank you very much.